Well, let's pray. Almighty God, our Father in heaven, we praise you for our Campbell County Library. Lord, we thank you for the wonderful books that are here, for the games, the services, the printers, the notaries, all the other things that the library does for us. Lord, we ask that you would bless the board. We pray that you would give them wisdom, that you would help them to speak clearly, to think carefully, to make wise decisions today for our library and for our community. Lord, we ask that you would continue to show your favor to this county, including by blessing our library. We ask it in the name of your Son. Amen.
Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you all for coming to the board today, this July 24th. We're going to start with the consent agenda. Is there any changes to the consent agenda? Do I have a motion to pass the consent agenda?
I move to approve the consent agenda as presented.
Second.
All in favor of passing the consent agenda?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, unfinished business. We starting with the special committee.
It works. Okay, great. Our committee did not actually meet, but I talked to a few people on the committee. It's just been busy summer. So some of the things to recap that we talked about last time, Terry mentioned to us was concern for leased books, and then the other thing was concern for interlibrary loan books. So I have here an example of a leased book from the adult section. There were some in the YA section as well. And I didn't get to talk to Barb, but I will do that. But an idea some of the staff said might work is to, depending on what kind of sticker we get, we want to talk to librarians about what kind of sticker is best. But then only putting it on the plastic, then they can remove it easily if they did put it in a leased book. So as you can see inside here, guys, there's like a plastic that covers the wording. And so like here in the back, the staff puts a sticker that covers the wording here. They suggested putting one on the plastic in the front. Obviously, some of the books in the YA room might not have these covers, so we'd have to go investigate that and talk about that with Barb as well. And then the interlibrary loan books, I talked to two other people, and they didn't see that as a problem, just because books go in and out of libraries everywhere, and there's different things in books, and so it seemed okay that other people, and they might not feel comfortable writing anything because they don't have the bookmark or the QR code that we would be distributing to educate them as to what those letters or mean in the book. And so I don't know if we need to take a vote yet. I think I would like more time to process with Barb. She's in charge of the leased books on her opinion in the leased books in the YA room. If you guys are okay with that, can we table it a little bit longer? Okay. So I move to table the special committee until another time.
Second.
All in favor of tabling?
Aye.
Any opposed? It is tabled. Weeding process.
So some questions came up at the last meeting. And so I went back and did some research. The past analytics software used for collection analysis was called Collection HQ. It's sold by Bridgeall Libraries, which is part of a major library distributor called Baker & Taylor. The annual cost at that time was $9,360, and the subscription was dropped April 28th, 2022 due to budget cuts. In addition to analyzing collection use, Collection HQ provides collection stats that compare collections of other similar sized libraries and also compares a collection against titles that are performing well on a local, regional, and national level. So it was some pretty cool software. We currently use Blue Cloud Analytics, and it's a module that is included in our card catalog software. This is new. This software is fairly new to us. It wasn't as available when we were subscribing to Collection HQ. And it does a lot better job at generating reports than our old software. And while the reports aren't quite as robust as Collection HQ, they still do a lot of great comparative things and adequately meet our needs for generating data on collection use, the age of the collection, inventory, bibliographic information in terms of a section. Do we have all the books in that section? Is it well represented? Also financial reconciliation. So that is what I have to report on that from the last meeting.
What was the name of that then? I'm sorry. Blue?
The old software or the current?
The current, the blue something or other?
Blue Cloud Analytics. Blue, B-L-U-E, Cloud Analytics.
Okay, get cloud, okay, that was the word.
Yep,
yes.
okay.
Is it in-
It's in there, yeah.
It's in the budget report.
And it's also on Unfinished Business, the name of that software. Yeah.
We had talked about contacting the state library to see if we could get that field put in there where people were on vacation and stuff, where you were able to get a hold of them.
They said they'd get back to me. I haven't heard back from them yet. I'll follow up with them. Yeah, they said they'd look at it and see if there was a way to insert it, but the process is what is making it hard, so we'd have to change our whole process. So I reported at the last meeting how we do it isn't always with a wand or the software ready. It's put on cards, and then so trying to remember the reason later. So, I mean, I did ask them about it, and they could see if they could insert it, but we'd actually have to completely change our process.
What kind of reports can you do now to generate, that would show us as a board, the statistics of the books?
You know, we have a great report for that. We use it to create our statistical reporting, so I could bring you an example at the next meeting. Okay.
Are there any more questions concerning this? Any comments?
Terry, does the staff like working with Blue Cloud more than Baker and Taylor? Is that what you find?
Well, they are actually a lot happier with it than the old software that was provided with the card catalog software. Yeah, they seem pretty happy with it, especially since it's cost prohibitive to do Collection HQ. And the only thing Collection HQ does differently, and it's noted here, is that it looks at, you know, the collection development habits outside of this library, which we do get good data about that in a different way. So, I don't know.
So the Blue Cloud Analytics, how much is that for a year subscription in comparison to the Baker and Taylor?
So, when the last time we had it, it was $9,360 a year. I would imagine with inflation, it's closer to 10 now,
But how
No,
much is the
Blue Cloud.
Oh, Blue Cloud is included with our statewide card catalog, so it's not necessarily priced separately. It just comes with the card catalog software that we're already subscribing to.
So for one report, we don't need to spend 10 grand, is that what you're saying?
It does make me feel a little concerned, yes.
All right. Very good. Anything else? Anybody wants to comment on that? All right, I'd be interested in that report and hearing that from the state library. The collection development policy. Last time we talked about the collection development policy and how the library was going to handle weeding according to the harmful for kids policy. And there was a mix-up there. So I'm gonna ask you again, how are you guys gonna handle that?
So our thought was that we would count on book challenges to find the books that are in need of being moved according to the public perception. That's what I said last month, and that's what I still feel is the best way to do it. If we're doing something to make decisions like that based on our perception of everything, are we representing the whole community? No, but through book challenges, you do represent the community. It's a community thing instead of a staff thing. And so that's why we've always had a reconsideration process, if that makes sense.
But the policy does require that you lead according to the Harmful to Children's Act, right? Policy.
Well, yeah, but that's pretty subjective, again. So are we gonna make the right decision? Are we gonna see it the same way that you do or the same way that the public does? It's still better to have a challenge.
Well, I understand we can have challenges, but I think the librarian should be willing to follow the policy and lead according to the policy. I mean, there are certain books that are pretty obvious.
Right now, it says that the books would be obscene according to our collection development policy, is what says in the policy.
It's or obscene. It's this.
Well, it's
this
actually
way.
and obscene.
It says or in the policy.
I don't think we can, I think we're going down the wrong path if you want to use the weeding policy as a way around the reconsideration policy. These are all books that have been chosen through our process in the first place. And there are no checks and balances on the weeding process. We don't have an appeal process built into it or anything else. If the idea is to use that instead of the reconsideration policy, I think we're going to be in big trouble. There are no standards for that. I think it's going to work out badly for us. We're in good shape, or better shape, I think, with the reconsideration policy rather than, and it may be the case with the weeding policy that some books will come up that people bought and they go, oh my God, look at that. You know, I don't think that's impossible, but I think you mentioned books that you think are obvious. Well, then someone should protest, you know, and we can go through our process. That seems like the easiest way.
Well, I think it's going to be a slow, arduous way that every meeting is going to be at least 2 challenges probably coming through here.
Madam Chair.
Well, and that's exactly what we did 2 years ago. You know, we're set up to accommodate challenges for books. And that policy, I think, is going to satisfy the First Amendment and keep us out of trouble. If we want to give them a list of books, these are the bad books, take them out, I think we're in big trouble fighting a challenge, we're going to lose.
Well, I think I'll let Chelsea speak first, sorry.
So when I was reviewing the new one that we were given online, I just found it here. If everyone would turn to page 9, it's sectional 2-2, Roman numeral 2-2, selection guidelines. And so you'll see there, that's what was written before. I don't believe we updated much of that. And then the next page, page 10, that's similar to what was there before. And then on the next page, that's where our policy for protecting children from harmful, sexually explicit material in areas designated for minors. So this isn't under the reconsideration of library materials part. This is under the policy for protecting children. So this is where we're talking about the selection guidelines. So this is where I feel like the staff's role comes into play, not necessarily underneath the challenge policy, but I think the staff has a role here too, and that's outlined in this. Am I missing that? Is that not true? Because I feel like we changed two major things. And this would pertain to the staff, and this other part pertains to issues that the public find, right? Right.
Well, I think they go together. I think something that is in violation of this particular set of rules is going to be something that if somebody challenges and we grant the challenge, or if the librarians grant the challenge before it comes to us, we're going to be on better ground. I think that's what that says. I don't think the weeding policy was ever designed to tell the librarians to start going through everything in the library.
Well, they do weed, and they,
Well,
different, if they are
this
coming
is
across
very
something that they know is sexually explicit, then they could weed it at that point, is all I'm saying. And they could do that.
They could, I suppose. The weakness to that is that we didn't build in an appeal process. So if other people say, no, that's not obscene at all, that's perfectly okay. That's why I'm saying
I hear what
the
you're
other
saying,
policy is better.
but we as a library have a right to define what we want in our library according to new case law.
Well, to a certain extent we do. We are stuck with the First Amendment to the US Constitution. We can't have a standard that is different than that. And this standard, if it's intended to be different than that, is void and is going to be thrown out if we ever get challenged on it. It's like, we talked about it when we were working on the book, and I hate to beat a dead horse. It's like the reference to SIPA, which I think is silly because it really doesn't apply. The SIPA standards only apply if the federal government is giving you money to finance your internet access. Otherwise, the standards are no good. So the SIPA reference here is a red herring. I mean, it doesn't mean anything.
Well, again, I disagree with you, but
Okay, can I just interject one thing? We've already discussed this. This policy is in place. We cannot go back and keep discussing it. We have to follow this policy now. Even though, Charlie, we voted no, we still have to follow this now. And so I think my distinction from weeding is that they're going to get rid of the books. That's not what they're saying. We're saying to move them to the adult section.
That's not written in here at all.
it's not.
So if we,
But Terry has said that's what they're going to do.
I know, and that's what I'm saying. And so by having that done, if we get challenges to do that, I mean, we're gonna have stacks and stacks of books. I mean, we already know some of them that have been challenged because they brought them up in public comment many, many, many times.
Well, then let them challenge them. Let's go through the
Okay, so
process.
my-
We've got a good process for
Okay,
that.
so my point is though, do we wanna waste our time and go through those books all over again and have them challenged again? Because our pile is gonna be like this, I guarantee it.
That's your job.
Hey, I don't need you guys to be talking, or we're gonna have to ask you to leave. Please.
So,
Sorry, please.
let's clear something up first, though. The weeding process is completely different than the challenge process. Two different, weeding comes as a,
Well, but
as a normal.
I'm hearing,
Order. They're still talking.
I'm sorry?
Okay,
But
that's
isn't,
better.
okay, isn't the weeding process what is a natural evolution of books?
Yes.
Okay, as opposed to the challenge process is a challenge from the public. So
Yes.
there's- So when something, and I think in reflecting on what's part of the conversation, when something comes up for weeding, it is actually on the chopping block no matter what the content is.
When they weed, when they
When
actually
they, when
weed.
Well,
they weed, yes.
The way the
yes.
weeding process has been up until these changes, it had to do with material that was out of date, books that were worn out,
Exactly.
things like that.
Yeah, exactly.
And that would still be, that doesn't
Exactly.
change at all. But we may have added some material in here that would have kind of provide a method to go through the collection, very much like a challenge process would, except it would be the librarians doing that, and there would be no appeal from their decisions. That's why I'm saying the challenge process it's got all the safeguards we could ever want, so that people don't like a book, we can look at it, we're requiring them to tell us which part of the rules that the book being challenged violates. We have a more robust challenge process than we did before. It's a good job, I think. A little redundant, but you know, you read it, you go, why did we do that?
But under just the weeding process itself, that book has come up to the chopping block for whatever reason. It's never been checked out, it's destroyed.
Sure.
Totally different argument, I guess. So, I mean, it's not that somebody challenged that book because of sexually explicit material. They come up because it's just, it's in the queue to be weeded.
I agree with you. I think that's, if we keep weeding, going in that direction and we keep the challenge process separately, I think we're in good shape.
When it is in this policy as separate.
Yeah.
And so it's two different deals, so.
I just don't want, I mean, I think we can have them challenge, but when they come to you, Terry, the first onus is on you.
That's right.
And are you going to take a look and you gonna recommend according to the harmful to minor policy?
I am going to look at that. I'm going to look at this. This is going to be my guide.
So hopefully some of those will get filtered out immediately via you. And then if you're in doubt, then you will send it on to the board if they ask for reconsideration.
If something does not meet the collection development policy, I've always done it that way, so.
So I'm just being clear.
Yeah.
Yep.
So now, just a question, if it comes up for weeding, and it's noticed that it possibly doesn't fit into our collection policy, would that give it more of a possibility of getting weeded? I mean, it's up on the chopping block anyway, for some reason.
Sorry, you lost me.
I think we're talking about two different things, John. I think we're talking about, I'm speaking for our chairman now. I think the idea that we're discussing is one in which the librarians would look at the content of the books, regardless of whether they've been checked out, in good shape, bad shape, old information, new information, just from the point of view of content, of the sexual nature of the content. And
I mean, and that's what the policy says they should do.
It says that in our policy.
yes, but our policy doesn't have any way of appealing that.
I know, but it says it in our policy though.
Well, but our policy is no good.
No,
Our
it
policy, whether it's passed or not passed, may well not pass constitutional muster. That's why I'm saying, to be safe, and it may be that things will come up that she'll be perfectly comfortable to work with. But the challenge process is more rigorous and gives people who are dissatisfied with books a way of starting the process off. The weeding process doesn't have anything in it where people can give her a list of books and say, these are the bad ones.
No, it says it's not the people giving her the books.
Will you read
Sorry.
it on page 12? It's the
It
fourth
says,
paragraph down.
weeding identifies damaged items, ephemeral materials which are no longer used, out-of-date materials, extra copies which are not being used, and materials which are inappropriate for the collection as defined by library policies, including the Protecting Children from Harmful Sexually Explicit Material policy, for materials in areas intended for minors. That's what it says.
Right.
So it's not the community that's weeding them out. It's as they go through the weeding, as they're doing the weeding policy, as they're doing their weeding, like normal weeding, if they come across that book should be taken out with that. Just like you would take out a book out of date material or extra copies. That's what they're looking at. And usually nobody, like if it's a book's weeded, you're not gonna have an appeal policy when a book is weeded for out of date policy or damaged item.
Well, but we're going into a constitutionally protected area here. We're going through the books on content, which we know is a dangerous area to get into. That's all I'm saying. Using the weeding policy as a way around the challenge policy is only gonna get us into trouble.
Well,
I don't agree. I think that we need to have a deadline, and we need to say, we would expect the staff to have the weeding up to date by this date, and then after that, then that should be the time that we start encouraging more people to challenge books that they have concerns with. But I think asking people in our community to continue to challenge books after they've already challenged them, when they've already had a weeding policy written in, I think is redundant. So just do their job. We've followed policy. Terry asked us to create a new policy. So I think that we need to have a deadline. Does anyone else agree that we need to have a deadline?
I completely disagree with that. What I hear you saying is you want to set the librarians on a path to purge the collection in the library.
Yeah, that is what I want them to do.
Well, that's not what it says. We've never discussed doing it that way.
That's
We have
exactly
a
what it says.
constitutionally strong process where people actually have to read the books, not just look at a list from some crazy right-wing site on the internet and go, these are bad books. Look,
I don't
here's
think
the
we
list.
need a crazy site. Like, we've heard from hundreds of constituents and patrons, hey, I have concerns with these books. So,
If they have concerns, we have a policy to deal with it.
what we do now, but now I think that's
We always
our
did.
these
staff's job.
librarians say they're the professionals and they know how to do this. We needed to defer to them and let them figure this out. Let them learn this if they aren't comfortable with it yet. But I think they need to do their job. They need to follow the policy. So, Terry, what's a reasonable time frame for them to go through the policy, go through the books, and do a weeding?
So that puts the onus on the staff for violating the First Amendment instead of the leadership of the library.
They're
And I
covered,
put
they
this
are
in the
covered
text.
underneath.
Exactly what we're doing.
They're covered underneath the library. They're not personally responsible.
I feel like we are personally responsible. If we're the ones doing it, if we're the ones physically doing it, that's how I see it.
Well, if that's the way you feel, then I feel like you should find another job.
Oh!
Stop right there, lady.
That's a decision of the board.
You may leave the room.
Point of order.
Leave the room if you're going to talk. It's not. You're not part of this conversation.
If that's how you feel about it. I'm trying to do the best thing that we can. You have a process here, you have a chance to make these decisions, and now you want me to do it instead, and I'm worried about getting sued on First Amendment issues.
You won't get sued on First Amendment issues.
Oh, you
The
can sue them.
library will get sued.
I will. It's how it works.
Yeah, and I think we have a policy that protects everybody. The policy that protects everybody, the challenge policy, is a strong policy that puts the onus on this board to make decisions about whether books
If it comes to
stay or
this,
stay.
but it should go
There's no
through
way-
the people who order the books, who know what content is in a lot of these books. I'm not saying they know every book. I think they can figure out what is sexually explicit. We talk about it being grinding body parts. That's not
Well,
very
but
hard to
that-
figure out.
Well,
You know.
but it's not in our policy.
But it is in our
And I'm confused by
policy.
your description, well.
But it is.
I have a comment too. So Charlie, when I found books at the recycling center, let's not talk about why they were there. It was a library book that had the discard stamp in it. So are you saying I could go and sue the library for discarding a book about frogs? Could I?
No,
Okay.
I think you're safe on discarding books about frogs.
Okay.
What
so,
I'm
so
saying
I feel like
is-
this is the same
What I-
thing.
No, this is
That
completely
someone is
different.
going to go to they're going to come in to buy a book at the thing, the sale that we do, and they're gonna come in and they might find that book. Anyone is gonna go and sue the library for finding a book that is discarded. I don't see anyone suing the library for discarding a book when it's a staff member in a professional position that has chosen to do that because they're following their policy. That is the answer I got when I found my frog book, was that this is under our policy that we would discard a book. So it is null and mute and void as to why we chose to discard it, because that's the answer I received, but it was discarded. I am not going to sue the library over a discarded book.
I think we will get some challenges.
Based on what's weeded.
But that's just because
If you want to use,
hot, but I think it needs to be challenged.
if you want to use the weeding process as an alternative to the challenge process, which is what I'm hearing you say.
It's not
You're
necessarily, I want
saying-
it to be both. I think they should go through and find the egregious stuff, because they know what it is.
I don't know that
They
it-
put it there.
Well, if they put it there, they probably thought it wasn't egregious.
No,
They
that's-
probably
no,
thought
that's
They
wasn't
not
thought,
saying
they
safe.
thought it fit the old policy,
I don't think.
because there was no policy to protect children, and now we
I
have
think
a
we've
policy
always
to
had
protect children.
policies to protect children.
I
I don't think-
You did not have a
This-
policy to protect children.
I-
That's why we added this.
Well, I don't know why we added that. I think you got crappy advice from radical attorneys in
Okay,
Florida.
but we don't need disparaging remarks.
Okay,
We can
you know
talk
what?
the facts.
Time out. We have already discussed this. We cannot sit here and do it again. It is passed. In our notes, what I got from Terry when I first started, if something passes, we have to move forward and not discuss it over and over and over again. I voted no. So, but now I'm in the position that it was passed. So now I need to move forward and help the library and Terry figure out how to do it. Charlie, that's what we have to do now. It's already passed. We can't keep discussing it and discussing it.
My concern is different than that. My concern is, it was never explicit that we were starting off on a wholesale attack on our collection to weed out things that you apparently don't like.
It does say
We
in
never
here-
talked about that.
It does say in here that Terry's supposed to give us a 6-month update.
Well,
on
what
that
if she
policy.
tells you everything's fine?
And
Well, I guess we'll figure it out.
Well, but the challenge process is so much better than this. The
We're not
challenge
saying-
process,
okay, so
As-
here's a recommendation. As if, when is your next reading cycle for like young adults? When is that?
I don't know that off the top of my head.
Okay, so can you find that out for us? Okay, so let's see when the next reading is for children's, young adults, and stuff. It could be soon, it could not. In the meantime, if there are challenges that come up, then we can deal with that. But she has time limits for the weeding. That goes,
The librarians need to follow policy
right.
and not say, well, I can't decide whether a book is sexually explicit or not. There are.
why not? Why can't they have difficulties deciding the answer to that question? These are tough questions. These are constitutional questions. These are not easy.
I think they can figure a lot of that out. I understand there might be some gray areas, but I think they can certainly figure out the egregious ones. And I think they should be willing to filter out the egregious ones.
Now, Terry, question. If I remember right, there's approximately 17,000 books every year that are weeded out.
Under the general weeding identifies damages, materials no longer used, out of date,
And all that. 17,000 was the number I heard, was
That
that?
seems like a reasonable number.
Okay, so,
out of that, there's 17,000 that are weeded out
on a normal basis for whatever reason, and they come up on a list for whatever reason.
And basically, now there's an additional parameter on weeding. And this is my take on this. So if it comes up on the normal weeding cycle, which is a computer-generated deal, and it does not meet the protecting children from harmful sexual explicit material, then it would be my guess that then it would be, that would give it an extra, it could have damage cover, never checked out and all that. That would just give it an extra check mark to get weeded with no real, I mean, because it was already put on the list for some reason, not the sexually explicit, it was put on the list because it didn't meet other parameters. Am I correct in guessing that? Okay.
Right, so there are parameters, we've reviewed them
And
before.
then, right, and so then the librarians at that time would review that book and see why the computer generated came up. And so it's already there to be weeded for some reason. And then, since this is a new policy, then that sexually explicit would then enter into that weeding question. So it's gonna come up normally, there's 17,000 books.
It will come up normally, might not happen tomorrow, but it will come up normally.
Absolutely, and that's where I'm going. That seems like a reasonable assumption on how to start this whole process. You know, because 17,000 books come up on a normal basis anyway. You know, and that would, of those 17,000, then librarians are gonna look at those books. And so there's already that many that are gonna be weeded, and if it's into the sexually explicit parameters, then that's just an added reason to weed it on a normal policy level. And then that's my take on this.
Well, it isn't currently criteria that we've been watching for.
I
And
know.
I understand with the changing of this policy, that's what your expectation is. I just don't know that it's an easy task. There's so much subjectiveness to it.
Sure, and subjectiveness aside, it doesn't require the librarians to go out there and pick 17,000 books that may be sexually explicit. There's 17,000 books that come up for reading anyway. And then
So Chuck, are you saying just to limit the analysis for sexually explicit to the books that are otherwise already
No.
weeded?
The challenge process. So it's not unduly burdensome for the librarians to have to go through and start looking at every single book and try to figure it out. There's 17,000 every year that come up automatically for weeding. Okay, so look at those, and that's 1,000, basically 1,000 a month, little round figures. So there's 1,000 books a month that they're gonna look at to weed anyway. Include the sexually explicit in there as they're looking through it. Oh, this does meet that parameter, or it doesn't. Some of this is it's gonna take a period of time to develop it anyway. So this will bring that into the fold, if you will, as they're weeding out books.
So you're saying if it's already on the list,
Yeah.
then that would just give it another date?
Another one?
Date.
Well, yeah, I mean, that would definitely add to the reason to weed it. It's already on the list. And then as things progress, this will progress to where, hopefully, in essence, there'll be less books that violate the policy anyway, and it'll slowly but surely work its way through.
Are you saying over time then as we go
There's
through our
gonna be
review
a period,
process?
yeah, there's gonna be a period of time that it's gonna take to make this work. And then hopefully, after 17,000 books, my God, there's gonna be a process, these things are gonna be eliminated by natural selection anyway, you know. That's just my thought.
Any other comments? I think the librarians need to be willing to look at that harmful to children policy and make a decision. I mean, they don't have to be 100% right. I mean, there's gray areas, but I think they can weed stuff that's easily meant more for an adult audience.
I think we have to use the challenge process to help us get to these books, to know what books meet this criteria.
So would you like, I've read some of those, so would you like examples? Can we get you examples maybe of what would be that? Because just like I said before, you know, where you start kissing, do we need to give you an example of what for them to look up?
Does the sex education book count?
I know, that's what I'm saying. Do you need, because to me, that's different than like a novel that's, that's what I'm saying.
Right.
So that's
I don't
why I
know, I
said
think
to
our
me-
collection development policy may need to have some amendments. It sounds to me like that gets this more specific to what you're pointing to. I'm supposed to follow this policy. Right now, it makes it difficult to follow, to do what you're asking me to do with the way that this policy is worded. If you want it that way, it needs to be worded that way.
What is not worded what way?
There's the word obscene in here that says the book is
Page.
obscene. Now, let me look.
We added back the obscenity standard in several of the areas
Well,
to
we
keep,
didn't, we
to
said,
keep the policy constitutional.
but it says or, not and, so it has to be SIPA or the obscenity. It's not and. Which is obscene or which is otherwise harmful to minors as defined by SIPA.
Okay.
And SIPA doesn't
11.
apply. We can't grant
Charlie,
it on.
Charlie.
Whether we pass it or we didn't pass it, it doesn't have standards that stand on their own.
Yes, it does.
It doesn't. It's easy.
You're wrong.
No, I don't think so.
Well, I think you are.
But that's the point. The point is that we have a perfectly viable challenge policy. I think it is possible that while they're reading, as they're going through the books, they'll see something they've never seen before, or they haven't noticed, and gone, oh my God, look at that. I don't think it's impossible that that could happen. I don't. I think that's definitely possible. But I think to rely on reading to get
I'm not
where
saying we
you
have
want
to
to go.
rely on reading, I think, but it is one prong of this.
Well, it
And even if a patron comes up and says, have you seen this? And they are made aware of it, they could put it on their reading list.
But then you're short-circuited. No, they can't. If a patron sees something and goes, oh my gosh, and their hair's on fire, that's what we have, we're okay with that. We've got a policy for somebody to come in and bring a book,
But they
and
don't.
then we go through the
book
challenge
doesn't have
policy.
to, if the book is, obviously doesn't meet the criteria of our.
Who gets to decide that it's obvious?
Well, librarians get to decide at this juncture. And if the book was torn apart and it was
Yeah,
missing,
that's
missing, they can make the decision at that point to weed it.
Sure, but that's a whole
But
different
so,
criteria.
if they know that this, oh my goodness, I didn't know that was in there, this is obviously violates our harmful to children policy, they could reshelve it or weed it. They could do that. There is a vehicle for that within our policy. They could do that without having the patron to go through the process. Now, they could make the patron go through the process, but I'm saying they have an ability to do that on their own. Right?
I think we're going in the wrong direction here. I think I can see them finding books as opposed to a general purge. What I'm hearing Chelsea say is she wants to give them 6 months to go through the whole collection and clean out all the bad stuff.
Well, I think they know some of the bad stuff. We've been hearing about stuff. And they
They've
could
been
go.
hearing allegations that haven't been tested in our process. They're hearing names of books that people have gotten from websites
Well,
that they haven't read.
Well, they may have read them or they may not have read them, but they could read them and they could read them if they wanted to. Now, they may, just to spite the board, not want to read them.
Well, they may have disagreements with, whether the content is sufficient or not. Let's put the monkey back on our backs where it's supposed to be, so that if somebody does think,
Talk so much your battery died.
but
But librarians are supposed to be even more of an expert than we are. Our job is way more fiscal than it is about doing a individual book. I mean, that is a part of ours, but they get to choose the books. They get to decide what even comes into our library.
Sure.
And so they should be able to figure out what is sexually explicit and keep it away from minors. Terry, I guess I have to ask you that you would hold the librarians responsible for knowing the policy, and if something comes up, to read it according to that. Did you change the batteries?
This is a subjective thing. You think that we know exactly everything you want removed from this collection? I couldn't even begin to guess.
I'm not asking for everything. I'm saying that there are some things that they could do without us.
Are you giving me direction then to go into the children's and YA departments, and if there's any book on sex education whatsoever, they need to be removed? Is that
No,
what you're
that's
telling me?
not what I'm saying.
Well, help me understand. That's how I'm taking it.
So let's leave the sex education books to the side for 1 minute. And let's just do fiction. There are a lot of fiction books that have been brought up that are sexually explicit in the teen area. You can know some of those titles. Tricks is one title that comes to my head that could be weeded just based on knowing that it exists and that it's not suitable for the teen area.
So Tricks is a book designed to be read by teens. So when we move it up in the adult collections, because you suggest to us that that is something that is our duty to do, then we are violating the First Amendment. It's on the staff to do it. We haven't gone through any legal process. Nobody's, there's going to be people in this community who think that Tricks should be in the YA room, and there's going to be people who think it's not. We get caught in the middle of that. We need a structure. We need to follow a structure for challenging a book, make a decision, let the board have the ultimate say if the decision we made is not the decision that the board wants, and be done with it. But if we just start moving things, it is really putting us in a bad position legally. You're asking us to do something that makes us uncomfortable legally.
I was told that the library would get sued, not the individuals. And they are following our orders.
It
And I
isn't.
know that they might be uncomfortable with it because they disagree on a basic level, that all information should be for all people. But I don't think that, now that we have this collection development policy, they need to follow the policy. And they can move that book or weed it or whatever they want to do with it, but it should not be in the teen area.
I think if you have targets in mind, books that to you are just clearly inappropriate, then we ought to have somebody challenge them, and let's go through the process and see whether they really are as bad as some people think they are. Maybe they're not. Maybe
I mean,
they're
that
okay
can happen, I
books.
just think that it is the slow boat.
I can say that I have read that book, and I would not want my 12-year-old to read it. I know that's a choice for parents, but we are allowing the 12-year-olds to be downstairs in the teen room, which most of them are for 15 up.
As you do the 15 up. And if we remember, we tried to change that, and it was looked down that we need to have the 7th graders down there because they are teens now. So, you know, so we have to have a boundary line somewhere with that. Our other option is just to get rid of the teen room and move all the books upstairs with the adult collection. And just mix everything together. And then we won't have a problem.
We have a system right now. If there are books that are, we went through that with, this book is gay. Remember that?
Charlie, I think, I know what you're saying, and I understand what you're saying, but this just popped into my head, I know. But now, because we have that challenge thing, we know some of those books that have already been challenged. I think what I'm hearing from Sage is that she feels, and you can tell me if I'm wrong, that you think the staff is not gonna do that. Is that how I'm hearing it? I don't feel like the staff's gonna lead anything. Okay, so so let me finish. So even if we do, okay, so we have the challenge thing, and it comes in, and then it goes to the department manager, and then it goes to Terry. If you are saying that by the First Amendment, we're gonna get, it's okay, that book's okay from the get-go. So it's still gonna come down to the board, if that's what I hear you say about the First Amendment.
It may not be true in every book. I've been known to move a book,
Okay.
remove a book, okay? So, but if I feel like I'm putting myself in a position to get sued, I'm gonna want some backup from this board. So I think it needs to go to the board.
So what you're saying is you wanna bring every book that's challenged to the board?
Not necessarily.
Okay,
It's the way it's worked in the past.
Okay.
Not everything's made it to the board, and that's been fine.
okay. Well, let the challenges begin.
Well, people that could make challenges, if they want to make challenges, for the last year and a half.
I know, Charlie, but I think people have been waiting to see what's gonna happen by holding back their challenges. That's what I heard. So,
I'm not in a position to hear the
No.
same things you guys do.
no, but I'm just saying, there has been, people are holding back their challenges to see where this is going. And apparently, what I hear is that it needs to go to challenges. So, like Sage, you just said, bring on the challenges.
I have one final comment, and I'm just gonna request from Terry, as the weeding process starts, could I get an update of all titles that are up for weeding? I can,
Okay, so when we weed the collections, we run a list.
okay.
I'm
just asking for the list, that's all I.
Are you asking for the list before it's weeded or after it's weeded?
Before it's weeded and after it's weeded.
have to see what we could do. I think we could scan the barcodes and provide a list and then not weed it until you've seen it.
No, I don't, no, if you,
I don't think that's what you said.
that's not what I'm requesting,
Okay.
okay?
Just wants the list.
I just want the list, okay?
Of what's been.
Of what books come up for weeding, okay? And then when you're done weeding, I would like a list of the books that were weeded.
So
That's all I want is a
we
list.
run a report about what should be weeded and we make decisions. It doesn't always match the list. And then once we actually physically remove the book from the collection, you want that list.
I want both lists,
You want both lists.
the list prior to weeding and the list after weeding, just two lists, that's all I'm asking for.
Okay.
Thank you.
So, Madam Chair, is this on?
Is it on now? Okay. Alright, so what I'm hearing is the staff is not in charge of any of the policy we just wrote. It's all of us, up to us. Is that what I'm hearing? Like that we are the ones that will be doing all of it and they will not do any of the work for the policy change.
I don't think that's what's been said at all. I think there's a legitimate concern that some of the close distinctions that need to be made are going to be difficult to be made, and they ought to be made by this board.
Right, the close decisions, but how about the stuff that's pretty obvious?
I think there may be a difference between what you think is pretty obvious
Okay,
and what other people
let's say
think.
there's one that's obvious to both of us.
Well, if it's obvious, I think it's possible there could be books that are obvious, and I think Terry's told us that she would remove those anyway.
And how about purchasing new books according to the Harmful to Children Act? Are they looking at that when they're purchasing?
It is under the part where they are supposed to be like curating the collection, the selection guidelines. That's where it's written is policy for protecting children. So is that, I mean, sure, they're not weeding the books now, but what about the initiated, hey, this book is damaged, we need to order a new one. Let's not order a new one because under our new policy, we know that this one wouldn't fly.
So we will follow the policy. I have said that before, I'll say it again. We are following the policy. The board sets the policy, the staff follows the policy, that's how it works.
All right, I'm going to be looking for evidence of that. New business. We have a new fiscal business year. We need to designate a meeting day, dates and times. Historically, it's been the fourth Monday of each month. We've made recently at 4:30. Do we want to keep that? Is there any reason to change it?
Darcy, what about with school? Are you okay with?
4:30 is fine.
4:30 is good. Okay. 4 was too hard.
So, I'd make a motion that we continue the meeting time and date as we've done.
I second.
Any discussion? All in favor of keeping the meeting date and time as historically, as it is historically? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? No. Election of officers. We have 3 positions. We have the chairperson, the vice chair, and the treasurer. Do I have any nominations for chairperson?
I nominate Chuck.
Do I have a second?
I'll second that.
Do you accept, Chuck? Do you accept the nomination?
I'll accept it.
Do I have any other nominations? All those in favor of Chuck being our chairperson, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? No. Chuck, you're our new chairperson. Vice chair, do I have any nominations for vice chair?
I nominate Chelsea Collier.
Do I have a second? Do you accept the nomination?
I accept the nomination.
All those in favor, or do we have any discussion on that? Any other nominations? All those in favor of Chelsea being our vice chair, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? No? All right. Congratulations, Chelsea. And treasurer, do I have a nomination for treasurer?
I think Charlie.
Charlie, would you like to be our treasurer?
Oh, yeah. I think I've been treasurer.
Know the ropes.
We don't have any treasurers, so.
We don't have any treasurer. Do I have a second?
I'll second it, excuse me.
Any other nominations?
I nominate Darcy for treasurer.
I do have a reason. I do have a reason. Because my plate is getting very full for some other things, and I just don't feel that I could give it what it looks like.
All those in favor of Charlie being our treasurer, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? No. All right. got our new officers. Bank approval, who's currently our bank person?
First Interstate Bank.
Is there any reason to change it?
No.
The county's designated, and the city has too, Gillette News Record for, as a newspaper for, you know.
They get all the business. I wanted to spread,
Well, they do
I just
get all
wanted to
the
spread the wealth,
But if
yeah.
it-
But I don't know that the other one is
If it
it
reduces
available
its-
in Gillette? Or is it only
If it
subscription?
reduces its number, it's gonna get.
No argument.
Yeah, I figured there was something. All right, so Gillette News Record, all in favor of Gillette News Record, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Conflict of interest disclosure, we all have to sign that. I haven't done mine yet, but I will. And we review the bylaws. Have you all read the bylaws, and is there anything we want to change in the bylaws? No changes? So I say do we need to vote on that then? There's no changes, it should just be, just go on. All right, marketing study. Terry, why don't you tell us about this new marketing study?
Okay, the marketing study is underway, and a staff questionnaire focusing on ideas for services and programs was sent out to staff last week, and the library board and county commissioners and city council got advance notice about a community questionnaire which will go out today, same day as our board meeting. So the survey just seeks feedback from the community on library brand services and programs. The focus now is to distribute the questionnaire and evaluate community feedback. We'll be interviewing some community members in person, and we'll be doing that as a management team. So the survey, we'll just go talk personally to people and talk. Basically, we just want to know how our community sees us, what we could do better, and what we do well. And so it gives us a chance to try to be the best library that we can be. The survey closes August 11th, and we'll take that data. It'll help us move forward in the future. And look forward to the input from all of our citizens. Any questions?
Madam Chair, do you have a copy of that handy that the board could be privy to,
A copy of what?
of the survey?
So you should have received that in an email.
Well, I thought that, I saw that, that's the whole survey.
That's it. It's
Okay.
very brief.
Okay, thank you.
Right.
Terry and I met on that, and I know there was a lot of questions on that, and,
Not just
oh, you're right, sorry. Darcy and I both met with you. Because there were a lot of questions that arose from that, and this is about moving forward and seeing what the community wants. This is not about hashing out old things.
No, this is a fresh start. It's a positive thing.
I saw you guys had a billboard advertising it. Was that to get more surveys or just to make the
Yes,
community-
we had a small marketing budget that we're able to use and try to get the word out because we want to hear from everybody we possibly can.
Good job. All right. Your director's report.
Okay, just to briefly run through the director's report. Done some HR training and Microsoft Outlook training for staff. It's a little slower in the summertime for training with lots of vacations going on. We support literacy and writing for adults via an editing workshop that was conducted by author-editor Edmund Pickett. We have a partnership with Campbell County Fair. We share a magician program featuring Michael Mesner. Our summer reading program is done August 2nd, but readers will submit reading logs and earn prizes through August 26th. Play to Learn, which features literacy promoting playstations, will happen August 22nd through 31st. We have a story time break. Wright Branch's annual back-to-school ice cream social is a really popular event for Wright residents. I usually try to go to that. It's a lot of fun, and we see a lot of people from Wright. Community crafters can expand their skills with the Cricut 101 class in the library's makerspace. Wright Branch has expanded its programming for children to add Tiny Tot Play programming. And the Children's Department via Rec District Grant is inspiring fifth graders to read and write by bringing author Brandon Mull to the Campbell County community. In terms of marketing, we've talked about our marketing study. We also do several things to try to get the word out to the community about the programs, events going on at the library. Facilities maintenance report. The programming of the FOBs is completed. Now we're trying to get staff programmed to get in the doors they need to get into. So, it's a lovely process. The replacement of our YIA desk is still pending. Our fire marshal reinspection is pending. This was reinspection is to assure that the minor corrections are completed. Wright Branch continued to put the water issues on there. Although there's been some commissioner interest in these issues, there isn't really a lot of great solutions out there. Our IT report, looking forward to providing online payment service. We're still working on that. It's quite an arduous process. Canva training continues. We're looking at incident software just to help us better manage incidents at the library that are really specific to maybe patron behavior, things like that we have issues with kids or different things. The computer damaged by a teen patron, it will be replaced this fall. And our new replacement computers will be in this fall. We've done a lot of safety training, and our STEP committee is now going through the library to look where FOBs work and what our safe rooms are based on how FOBs are working. Staff and library news, we had an intern from Gillette College that helped us June and this month. We are recruiting an administrative assistant. I have one addition to the director's report. This information came in after I put the packet out. So the new evaluation form has been released by Human Resources for the evaluation period of July 1st, 2022 through June 30th, 2023. So I plan to have that given to you at the next meeting, and if you have time to do the evaluation following the meeting, that would help meet deadlines. If you'd like to have schedule an additional meeting, we could look at that too. So whatever works best for the board.
Terry, I just was curious about something. I got to go to a couple of museum events that are in the kids area, or kid interested events, and I wasn't sure if you guys ever partner with the museum with events. I just thought when I come to the library for children's events, they usually advertise, and I thought maybe it might help the museum too. I didn't know if you could, or if that's a possibility. I don't know if that's something, because you guys advertise the fair, partnering with the fair for the musician or magicians.
Right. So. You know, the museum, we have partnered on some adult programs, but the children's programs are a little newer. So I saw that too, and I was curious about that. So I can certainly talk to the director. I talked to him a lot. I talked to all the directors. So that might be something that we could do. So that's a good point.
It was a really great event that they had out there. So.
Yeah.
I just would have loved to have seen more kids in our community enjoy it. So I think our museum does a good job of sharing that information. I just wish that.
I know, and it could help if we partnered. It could help his traffic as well. Yeah. Anything else before I finish up? You see all of our workshops and meetings and programs listed. for some circulation in, that we've been following for electronic items since they've been kind of a big deal over the last several years. Next foundation meeting is August 14th. They'll set their budget and get a report on the marketing grants things I'm giving you. Friends of the Library met June 27th. They take the month of July off. They attended the summer reading kickoff, and they'll assist with the library booth at the Campbell County Fair to help get surveys from the public. Next
I
meeting-
wanted to add on there that it's missing the Wild Wednesday Campfire Craziness on July 26th at 2:30. Because I'm
Okay.
planning to go to that. And that's the same time as the teen end of summer party. So they'll be really busy that afternoon. But in the children's
Oh, I did
department.
miss that.
So,
Yeah,
so make
good
sure
point.
everyone knows about that too.
Yep, thank you. And it'll be time for summer reading to conclude, I think, with that August 2nd edition, so.
So
Anyway.
how was the summer reading program received? Did you have a lot of traffic?
Yes, it was, I'll have some good statistical report to share. Once we get through August, I'll have some in September or possibly October, but we've had high head counts during summer reading, so I think it's been pretty busy. Fun to come in and see all the kids reading, doing their reading logs, getting their prizes, and selecting a prize for reading. And this room is used a lot on Wednesdays for the Wednesday programming, and so it's
We
usually
need a
in the
big room to
afternoon.
house everybody. is what
Right,
you're saying.
it's full,
Mhm.
right.
That's awesome. So, and you're doing Canva training. Is Canva just what I think Canva is, the marketing software?
Right, and then creating posters and things like that, yeah. And so we are using that more. We're getting all of our graphics from it now, so, and it's still relatively new for staff, so we're trying to make sure everybody knows how to use it.
Cool. All right, any questions? Jared, got a lot going on. All right, we are ready for public